At 92, Willie Nelson finally tells the truth about Johnny Cash. Willie Nelson was born Willie Hugh Nelson on April 29, 1933 in Abbott, Texas, a tiny town that would play a monumental role in shaping his life and his artistic soul. Raised by his grandparents after his parents separated when he was very young, Nelson grew up in an environment where music was both a comfort and a calling. His grandparents taught him to play guitar at an early age, and by the time he was 6 years old, he had already written his first song. Music was never just a pastime for Nelson. It was the lifeblood that kept him going, even in the most challenging times. Those humble beginnings instilled in him the values of resilience, independence, and authenticity that would later define not only his career, but also his legendary place in American culture. As he grew older, Nelson pursued his passion with an unmatched determination. In high school, he performed in local bands and even worked as a disc jockey at small radio stations, giving him first-hand experience in understanding the sound and spirit of country music. His early years were marked by financial struggles and odd jobs, from farming to selling encyclopedias, but he never allowed hardship to pull him away from his dreams. Instead, these experiences enriched his storytelling, making his music resonate with working-class men and women across the country. Nelson's lyrics carried the grit of real life, love and loss, freedom and heartache, joy and pain. Willie Nelson's breakthrough came in the 1960s as a songwriter in Nashville. He penned some of the most enduring country classics of all time, including Crazy, made famous by Patsy Cline, Hello Walls, a hit for Farron Young, and Funny How Time Slips Away, sung by Billy Walker. These songs showcased his natural gift for melody and his ability to put profound human emotions into simple, heartfelt words. Yet despite his talent as a songwriter, Nelson initially struggled to achieve fame as a performer in the polished, traditional Nashville scene. His unconventional voice, nasal, intimate, and deeply emotional, did not fit the mold of what record labels expected. But this very uniqueness would soon become his greatest strength. By the 1970s, Nelson returned to Texas and became a central figure in the outlaw country movement, alongside fellow rebels like Waylon Jennings, Kris Kristofferson, and Johnny Cash. These artists rejected the slick production style of Nashville and instead embraced a raw, more authentic approach to country music. Nelson's album Red-Headed Stranger, 1975, broke all the rules. It was sparse, haunting, and completely unlike anything else on the market. Against all odds, it became a massive hit, proving that listeners craved something real and original. Songs like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain cemented his place as a superstar and gave him his first number one single. Throughout his career, Nelson became more than just a singer. He was a cultural symbol. With his trademark long braids, worn bandanas, and easygoing persona, he represented freedom, individuality, and the spirit of the open road. His masterpiece, On the Road Again, became not only his signature song, but also an anthem for wanderers, dreamers, and anyone who longed for a life beyond ordinary boundaries. His music transcended genres, appealing to fans of country, rock, folk, and even jazz. Beyond music, Willie Nelson's legacy is deeply tied to his activism and humanitarian work. He has been a vocal advocate for farmers, co-founding Farm Aid in 1985 with Neil Young and John Mellencamp, an annual concert that raises millions to support struggling family farmers across America. Nelson also became an outspoken supporter of environmental issues, animal rights, and the legalization of marijuana, a cause he championed long before it was widely accepted. His courage to speak his mind and stand up for what he believed in earned him respect far beyond the music industry. Despite facing personal and financial struggles, including tax battles with the IRS and periods of career setbacks, Nelson always bounced back with humility and grace. His resilience made fans admire him even more, seeing in him not just a superstar, but a man who endured the same ups and downs of life as they did. Even in his later years, he continued to record albums, tour extensively, and collaborate with artists across generations, from Ray Charles to Sheryl Crow, from Merle Haggard to Snoop Dogg. His ability to remain relevant over decades speaks to his universal appeal and timeless artistry. Even after turning 80, Willie has not stopped making music. In 2014, around his 81st birthday, Nelson released yet another album, Band of Brothers, and delivered a #1 country hit. Willie has regularly appeared in films and TV series, too. Some of his most popular films are The Electric Horseman, Starlight, The Dukes of Hazzard, Blonde Ambition, and Zoolander 2. Willie has penned more than half a dozen books, and some of his most popular books are The Facts of Life and Other Dirty Jokes, Pretty Paper, and It's a Long Story, My Life. Today, Willie Nelson is celebrated as not just a country music legend, but a national treasure. With more than 70 studio albums, countless awards, including Grammys and induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame, he has left a mark that few can match. Yet perhaps his greatest contribution is the way he has touched millions of lives with his honesty, warmth, and humanity. Listening to Willie Nelson is like hearing the voice of America itself. Complex, soulful, free, and enduring. Willie Nelson, one of America's most beloved country music icons, has lived a life as colorful and dramatic as the songs he has written and performed. His personal life, much like his professional one, has been filled with twists, turns, and moments that reveal his restless spirit and deep yearning for love and connection. Over the course of his lifetime, Nelson has married 4 times, each relationship reflecting a different chapter of his journey as both a man and an artist. His first marriage was to Martha Matthews in 1952, when he was still a young and struggling musician. Their union lasted for about a decade, producing 3 children together, Lana, Susie, and Billy, but was also marked by turbulence, disagreements, and personal challenges. Despite the difficulties, this marriage gave Nelson some of his earliest experiences with fatherhood, shaping him as a family man even as his career began to demand more of his time and energy. After the end of his marriage to Matthews, Willie entered into a second marriage with Shirley Collie, a fellow country singer, in 1963. This relationship reflected his growing prominence in the music world, as both partners shared a passion for performing and life on the road. While their marriage was relatively short-lived, ending in divorce in 1971, it highlighted the difficulty of balancing a demanding career in the spotlight with the private intimacy of married life. Not long afterward, Nelson married his third wife, Connie Kopka. This marriage produced 2 daughters, Paula and Amy, and lasted through some of Nelson's most productive years as a songwriter and performer. Kopka supported him through his rise to superstardom in the 1970s, though the strains of fame, long tours, and Nelson's free-spirited lifestyle ultimately led to the dissolution of their marriage as well. In 1991, Nelson found lasting love with his 4th wife, Annie D'Angelo, a makeup artist he had met on a film set in the 1980s. Annie became not only a partner in his personal life, but also a steadying influence who helped ground him during a period when Nelson was facing financial troubles, health concerns, and the pressures of fame. Together, they raised 2 sons, Lucas and Micah, both of whom inherited their father's passion for music and went on to pursue their own successful careers as musicians. Willie's marriage to Annie has been the most enduring of his life, lasting over 3 decades and proving that even a man known for his restless, wandering nature could find stability and deep companionship. Beyond his marriages, Willie Nelson's role as a father has been central to his identity. In total, he has fathered 7 children, each of whom has shaped his life in unique ways. His children have grown up with a father who, despite being a global superstar, never lost his deep attachment to family. Some, like Lucas and Micah, followed him into the music world, while others chose different paths, but all have remained tied to the legacy of one of America's most important cultural figures. Willie himself has often spoken about the importance of family and how much he cherishes being a father and grandfather, even while balancing the demands of a music career that has kept him on the road well into his later years. Today, Willie Nelson enjoys a life that reflects both his success and his love for a peaceful, grounded existence. He presently lives with his current wife, Annie, and their 2 sons in Hawaii, where the family has built a sanctuary away from the constant pull of the spotlight. Their home on the islands represents a place of calm and beauty, a space where Willie can indulge in his passions outside of music, gardening, writing, and enjoying the natural world. Hawaii, with its serene landscapes and gentle rhythms, provides a fitting backdrop for the later years of a man whose songs have always celebrated freedom, open skies, and the search for peace. For Willie Nelson, who has lived through the highs and lows of fame, financial struggles, and personal challenges, his marriage to Annie and the life they share with their children represent a kind of fulfillment that he spent decades searching for. At 92 years old, Willie Nelson has lived a life that few could even imagine. The legendary singer-songwriter, whose career has spanned more than 7 decades, has become not just an icon of country music, but a cultural symbol of independence, resilience, and authenticity. Through the years, Nelson has spoken about many of the greats he has known, performed with, and admired. But it is only now, in the twilight of his remarkable career, that he has chosen to speak openly and candidly about his longtime friend and fellow outlaw of country music, Johnny Cash. For decades, the public has speculated on the true nature of their relationship, whether they were competitive, whether they ever had disagreements, or whether their bond was as deep as the legends suggest. Nelson, now reflective and unafraid to speak his truth, has finally offered his heartfelt recollections. "Johnny wasn't just another performer," Willie said in a recent interview. "He was a brother to me, in every sense of the word." Their connection began in the 1960s, when both men were forging their own paths through a music industry that often tried to confine them to neat little boxes. Willie was struggling to get Nashville to understand his unique style, while Johnny had already broken through but was constantly pushing against the constraints of tradition. "We both knew what it was like to feel boxed in by the business," Willie recalled. "That gave us common ground, and it gave us respect for each other from the very beginning." This mutual understanding grew into a lifelong friendship that endured fame, personal struggles, and the relentless passage of time. Nelson admitted that one of the things he admired most about Cash was his honesty, not only in his music but in his life. "Johnny never pretended to be perfect," Willie said. "He sang about his demons, his faith, his failures, and his triumphs. He let people see all of it. That's what made him real." This authenticity, Nelson explained, was why fans loved Cash so deeply and why fellow musicians looked up to him. For Willie, Cash set the bar for what it meant to be true to oneself in a business that often rewarded conformity. The 2 men would go on to share the stage countless times, most famously as members of the Highwaymen, alongside Kris Kristofferson and Waylon Jennings. "Those years with the Highwaymen were some of the best times of my life," Willie confessed. "We weren't just a band, we were family." And Johnny was the anchor. He had this presence that made you want to stand a little taller, sing a little stronger, and be a little braver. Nelson laughed as he remembered how Cash, despite his deep voice and intimidating aura, could also be incredibly warm and funny. People think of Johnny as this dark, brooding figure, but he could light up a room with his humor. He had this way of cutting through tension with a joke or a smile, but Willie also revealed moments of vulnerability he witnessed in Cash, moments that were not often seen by the public. "Johnny carried a lot of pain," Nelson admitted. "He struggled with addiction, with loss, with health issues. But he never let those struggles define him. He fought through them, and he turned them into music that touched people's souls." That kind of courage is rare for Nelson, This strength made Cash not just a legend, but a hero. At 92, looking back, Willie confessed that what he misses most is simply the companionship. "I miss talking with him. I miss the long nights where we'd sit around with guitars, trading songs and stories. I miss hearing him call me Shotgun Willie and laughing about the crazy things we got into." You don't replace a friend like Johnny Cash finally. Nelson summed up his feelings with a quiet reverence. "When I think about Johnny, I don't just think about the music. I think about the man, the husband, the father, the friend. He gave so much of himself to the world, and he left it better than he found it. I'm proud to have walked beside him, and I'm proud to call him my brother. That's the truth, plain and simple." In speaking these words, Willie Nelson not only offered fans a rare glimpse into his personal memories of Johnny Cash, but he also underscored the bond that helped shape an era of music unlike any other. At 92, Nelson's reflections are not just a tribute to Cash. They are a testament to the power of friendship, honesty, and music to endure long after the last note has been played.